Good morning.
Hey, Ashley, this is Dan. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, just want to let you know I did start the Zoom live stream on YouTube.
Okay, thank you.
So it is just currently our first page of the packet. And I'll start recording once it actually starts.
Okay, thank you so much, Dan.
No problem. And now I'm hearing our conversation on YouTube.
How do we sound?
Not bad. It's always weird to hear your own voice, though.
Good morning, everyone. This is Ashley. Just wanted to check to make sure I have all the board members that are currently on. Right now, I see President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, Ms. Crockett, Ms. Yanoff, and Mr. Swanson. Are there any other board members that I am missing that is currently logged on? Okay. Marianne, I do know that we are waiting on a few board members to log in.
Okay, thank you, Ashley.
Okay, want to make another check. I do see that Hans and Justin are on. Matt Mason, are you on yet? Okay. President Lee, I do believe you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. First up is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Alexis, with actually, before we do the the roll call, just really fast, just a few housekeeping reminders regarding virtual meetings. Board members, please stay muted. And after each agenda item, we'll follow an open discussion and dialogue first, and then Ashley may go through roll call to see if any member has an additional comment or question, if needed, to ensure each board member is heard. And just a reminder to please state your name before you speak. Charters on the agenda, please stay muted until the item is considered. We will ask if the charter is available, and if so, the charter can unmute themselves at the time. And the general public is viewing the meeting via live stream or have called in via Zoom and will be muted. All right, and with that, Alexis, with the roll call, please.
President Lee,
Here.
Vice President Close,
Here.
Superintendent Hoffman. Yep. Dr. Crockett. Mr. Mason. Ms. Rice.
Here.
Mr. Swanson.
Present.
Mr. Twist. Ms. Yanoff.
Here.
President Lee, you have a quorum.
Great, thank you, Alexis. All right, up next, Superintendent Hoffman.
Good morning. I'm not hearing President Lee.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so up next now, Superintendent Hoffman with the superintendent's report.
Let me turn on.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, President Lee, board members, and everyone who is tuning in today. I want to first take a moment to acknowledge the different native lands that we occupy today. My own office sits on the O'odham and Hohokam lands. So first, some positive, exciting news. After many conversations and really taking the time to get to know the Department of Education, I am thrilled to announce that our agency has a new vision statement. This is to better set the direction and to guide our strategic planning going into the future of what we want to see out of our agency and all the amazing work that takes place in ADE. And so our new agency vision statement is equity for all students to achieve their full potential. Also related to that, over the last year, we have been hard at work at developing a new and improved website that is intended to better serve our public or state public education community. And we had a lot of help from both internal and external folks to get this done. And the part of having this new website is meant to really ease the user access. So having more functionality and hopefully improving everyone's experience. It's modernized. It looks, I think that the information will be a lot easier for people to access, for teachers to get information, or educators, or some of the areas I wanted to highlight really quick is that there's a new events section where you can search for different professional development. There's our agency does a lot of professional development and different webinars and things like that. So now you can more easily search and see all the different things, or if you're a teacher that's looking for professional development, you can more easily go to our website and search to see the full calendar and all the different opportunities through the new website. Another area that we're really proud of is a new and improved educators certification and career section. So this has all the information for anyone who wants to get certified or renew their certification, but also for those who are thinking about entering the profession and they want more information about what are the steps needed to pursue a profession in the education field. So that's a new and improved area. Another area that many people use our website to access student and school data and to search for schools or learn about the success and the challenges of our students through the data. And so we now have more easily accessible links and resources and forms to better access that information. So please check it out. It's the same website, azed.gov. I think you're really gonna like the new look. It's much more cleaner, modernized. And then it's also very timely too, because we have been using our website to post a lot of COVID-19 resources for teachers, for school leaders, also for families. So we really want our website for everyone who's using and accessing our website to have a good user experience. Another exciting announcement is that our school safety task force is wrapping up their work. It's already been a year since we launched the school safety task force. And so they're finalizing their report. And this will include a model school safety plan and recommendations for school leaders and lawmakers. And one thing I really love about the report is that we really took the time to elevate student voices and make sure that there's quotes from students throughout the report. So that's one piece that I especially like about the school safety task force report that's coming out. So keep an eye out for that. The final draft will be released by the end of this month. Another area I'm really excited about right now is earlier this summer, we created a new position and for the first time hired a post-secondary coordinator to help support our students as they transition from the K-12 sector on to post-secondary. And so our new post-secondary coordinator is Andrea Glenn, and she has hit the ground running, and she spent a lot of her time recently forming critical partnerships with post-secondary organizations like Achieve 60 and College Success Arizona. And one event that we're working towards right now is we're doing a big push, a collaborative push towards encouraging students to apply for the FAFSA. And so on September 30th, ADE, along with the Governor's Office and College Success Arizona, will be hosting a statewide FAFSA kickoff to launch this new FAFSA season. And this partnership and event will also showcase the best practices and resources and increase the visibility of our commitment and support to meet the new FAFSA goals, the FAFSA state goal, which is set by the State Commission's office. And if you're interested in attending, more information and registration is available on our website. Another area that Andrea is working on that we're excited about is also partnering with tribal colleges to support our tribal dual enrollment program with ASCAN to strengthen our partnerships and programs offered together. More on the public health side of things, as of last Thursday, when Arizona Department of Health Services released the new data on the benchmarks, the public health benchmarks, as of last Thursday, 11 of the 15 counties had met the benchmarks. We did see some start to regress a little bit, so we do need to continue to be extremely vigilant and cautious and continue to monitor this data, or these data. The Arizona Department of Health Services and ADE we're strongly encouraging schools to consider the benchmarks and the available COVID-19 data and in making decisions about opening schools for hybrid or in-person learning. And I also want to encourage all of our school leaders to continue working with staff and families to determine their level of comfort in returning to the school community and to the school campus. As we know, COVID-19 has been particularly devastating for communities of color in Arizona. And so we should be mindful that there are still many educators and families that are still very concerned about the risks. And so we just want to make sure we're being as accommodating and flexible as possible. And on this note too, just my last little announcement is we also are very interested in having more transparency around school reopenings. And so we are starting to track that. But there's no state mandate to track what the status of schools are. So we're trying to create a way right now by working with our county superintendents and the Charter School Association to collect that data. And so we are going to be sending out a survey to all of our charter leaders, and you may have already received this. I know it's going out shortly if it hasn't already. And the survey will be helping us to track reopening both from district and charter schools. So please keep an eye out for that survey and fill it out as quickly as possible. And that's to help us have a better sense of the level of open. Is it in-person learning? Is it hybrid learning? Or is it full distance learning? And we want to be able to track that so that we can have a more statewide snapshot of what all the different districts and schools are doing. So we really appreciate your help with that. And that concludes my report.
Great. Thank you so much, Superintendent Hoffman. Board members, any questions for the superintendent? Okay, great. All right. Item E, Executive Director's Report. Ashley.
Good morning, President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, and board members. With regard to the first item underneath the Executive Director's Report, the update on fiscal year 2019 audit submissions. So Laws 2020, Chapter 47, directed the Office of the Auditor General to work with public schools to establish timelines for financial and performance reporting because of COVID-19. On April 1st, they did issue guidance providing districts and charters the ability to submit their fiscal year 2019 single audit by September 30th. So they extended their original deadline of March 31st to September 30th. Earlier this month, two charters on this list, Acamel, Peabosh Charter School, so both A and B entity IDs 5978 and then 78966, they both did submit their audits. According to the auditor for Harvest Power, they are in the final stages of their audit and will be submitting to the board by the end of this month. And then that will conclude all of the 2019 audits. So at that point, we will have all of the audits for all of our schools. With regard to item 2, I was requested to bring back information to the board regarding the Paycheck Protection Program and charter schools receiving those loans. On August 20th, the Arizona Auditor General's Office did look into a specific issue as to whether loan proceeds obtained by charter schools under the Small Business Administration's Paycheck Protection Program met the definition of monies intended for the basic maintenance and operations of schools, as set forth in Arizona statute. The Arizona Auditor General determined that no, statute does not appear to apply to loan proceeds charter schools obtain through the SBA PPP loans. Those loan proceeds are not monies received from the federal or state agency outlined in statute. Specifically, the SBA's guidance indicated that eligible applicants will receive all monies from lenders. Further, the SBA has informed the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants that PPP loans are not federal financial assistance subject to a single audit. Therefore, at this time, there are no legal or regulatory issues for the board pertaining to the charters receiving PPP loans. I did want to update the board and the charter schools that we do anticipate putting out for public comment proposed changes to the complaint policy and procedures. The changes are more technical in nature to help streamline the processes and make it more efficient for both complainants to submit complaints, but also for charters and the board to complete and fulfill the requirements within that complaint process. So we hope that we can address the complaints faster and that we can come to a resolution a little bit faster as well. But that complaint process will go out for public comment, and then we'll come back to the board for consideration and approval at a later date. Okay. As an update for the status board actions and legal matters, as of right now, the board is continually working on the consent agreements for the schools that do not currently meet the board's operational performance expectations, and in which the board has requested board staff to work on and offer a consent agreement to those schools that will later come back to the board for your approval and consideration. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. All right, board members, any questions for Ms. Berg? Okay. Ashley, thank you for getting us all that information. Moving on to item F, call to the public. There was one comment that's been received and it's been placed on the website. Item G, consent agenda. Board members, is there anything that you'd like to remove or pull from the consent agenda? All right, Ashley, I'm gonna.
President Lee,
Yes, Member
this is
Swanson.
Jim Swanson.
Yes.
And I'm trying to get, I've got monitor issues here, so trying to get my notes correct here. Is GEM Charter Schools on the consent agenda? Can
Yes.
we pull that?
Absolutely. Yep. So we'll go ahead and remove item 3A off the consent agenda. And if there's no other removals, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda item 3B?
President Lee, this is Hans. I'll make that motion to approve consent agenda item 3B.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Well, do I need to do
You have
a
to
motion
do
for
Yep, sorry.
G1, 2, and 3B? Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yep. Thanks, Hans.
Is there a second?
This is Carol Crockett, second.
Thank you, Dr. Crockett. Alexis?
Vice President Close,
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Mason,
Aye.
Dr. Crockett,
Aye.
Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Swanson,
Okay.
Mr. Swanson,
Aye, sorry, monitor issues.
Ms.
So,
Yana,
Aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Swanson, or actually Rachel, I think that there was gonna be a presentation for GEM Charter School.
I have an introduction I can read.
Yes, perfect.
Also, okay. President Lee, Superintendent Huffman, board members, GEM Charter School Inc. has filed amendment requests to change its board membership and add a new representative. The requests add 3 new members to its corporate board and remove 1 member. Additionally, one of the new members is being added as a new charter representative. The requests have been filed due to the retirement of the current charter representative and new leadership taking over operation of the charter and school. Approval of these requests would result in a change of 50% or more of the individuals responsible for the charter.
Great, thank you, Rachel. Do we have a representative or representatives from GEM Charter School?
Yes, Nelica von Savoyen.
Great, welcome. Thank you for being here. If you could just tell us a little bit about the change, what's going on, if the school plans on staying the same, a little bit about your guys' expertise in running a charter school, that'd be great.
Sherry Sampson is the one that I have asked to become a charter representative and also be on the board. I've been running this school for 22 years. And I think it's time for me to retire and put some new blood in my GEM Charter School board. So that's what we're looking for. Sherry Sampson should be available as well because I believe she's on here. She has run Keystone Montessori as a charter school for, I believe, 12 to 15 years. And actually she's already improved a lot of my enrollment. We've done a lot of, she's done a good job so far, and it's only been a few months. So I am looking to continue working with the GEM Charter School for the next 5 years. So we'll do a very slow transition. And I think this is a very good change at this point. You have any questions?
Mr. Swanson, I know you pulled it from the consent agenda. Did you have any specific questions?
Yes. So board, again, this is a topic that we've dealt with in the past and we're going to see more of, and this is schools transitioning out of, doing generational shifts. And essentially what we have is a charter, and I'm not casting any sort of anything on motives or anything like that, or whether this is the right thing or the wrong thing. But we have essentially is a transfer of ownership of a charter into the hands of I think, a private school operator. And I want to make sure that we have the right kind of accountability and process followed to make sure that, new charters go through a rigorous process to get approved. And here we seem to have on the consent agenda an item that just shifts ownership to a completely new ownership group over time. And I just want to make sure that, well, I'm not necessarily totally comfortable with that process, and I think we need to improve that.
Madam President, if I may, this is Ashley.
Please.
Member Swanson is absolutely correct. Right now, we do not have a request process for schools to have the ability to transfer their contracts. Typically, what we have seen in the past is either schools go through the new charter application process, so then the board can have a good understanding of what the operations, financial, and academic plan is for that school. With that being said, though, the new charter application process is very laborious, and it takes a very long time. The timeframes are quite long. So I think that there does need to be a way for schools to transfer a little bit more expeditedly and to get them through that process, because as we know, leaders are going to want to retire. They're going to want to get out of the operations. So we need to figure out how to seamlessly transition these schools appropriately. And I know Sherry does have experience in this, but right now she's not coming from an operator, in which we usually see that we can bring some data.
Yeah, thank you, Ashley. And I agree. I mean, I think just we're going to be seeing this more and more. And what does it look like to potentially come up with a transfer agreement process? How quickly can we do that so we aren't, holding charters back for making these transfers? What does that look like? I don't think you'd mentioned a timeline, and if you did, I apologize.
No, I hadn't mentioned a timeline for a new process. Staff and I have started to work together to come up with a process that would somewhat mirror the new charter application, but be a little bit more tailored to the situation that we're in right now with transferring. So I believe what we can do is we could put together a request under an emergency process where we would still put it out for public comment and bring it back to the board by October. So by October, we could have that request, that transferring process in front of the board for your consideration and approval. And that would have gone through, although it would be expedited, it would have gone through a public comment process.
No, I think that process sounds good. It sounds like we can do it quickly. I'm sorry, I'm just getting the people right of who the new ownership is going to be. Is the new ownership person available for some questions?
Sherry, yes, she should be.
Yeah, this is Sherry Sampson.
Here. Okay. Perfect.
And at this point in time, my understanding is that this isn't an ownership transfer. This is a charter representative transfer or appointment. But I wanted to give a couple of points. In 97 through 2014, I was the head of school at Keystone Montessori Charter School. During that time, we also had a private preschool. And then in 2005, we merged everything together. So we're in a similar situation here where we do have a private preschool, which is exactly how it was with GEM Charter School. They had Good Earth Montessori, which was for the private preschool. So I understand that there is some longevity plans, but we're not there right now. I don't know, what those processes are. I think originally, Ashley, we talked about the possibility of, because I've been away from the charter directly for 5 years, I went ahead and helped some parents open a school in Gilbert. Same thing, Montessori. That's been my life since actually 95. So, my goal is to keep focusing on serving a certain population that wants Montessori, but also wants to be able to afford education. And I don't know if you're familiar with Keystone and its program. We grew from being about 14 charter students to about 125, maybe 30 now. I'm not super familiar with their numbers, but it has been a very successful school in terms of serving a population and academically in improving their outcomes. When I left in 2014, it was a seamless process. We're both nonprofits, so there is no funding concerns there, or ownership, I guess you would say, not funding, but ownership concerns. I realized that 2 years ago, they just went through, again, a change of directors. So I don't know how that process went, but I stepped down, somebody else stepped in, and it seemed quite painless. I don't know how that falls into what your concerns are, Board Member Swanson, and if there are other things that have come up outside of my realm of understanding. So we're working closely with NELICA, or I'm working closely with NELICA to make certain that the mission statements are the same and our goals and outcomes for the children of this area are the same. Perhaps there are specific questions that somebody could pose that I might be able to address.
President Lee, this is Jim Swanson. And again, I'm not questioning your any kind of motives or anything, or you're not that you're trying to change anything. But I do feel like a process that Ashley outlined maybe is in order to make sure that you know, the change of just the charter representative and the changing of the whole board just leaves, in my mind, open the potential for other schools to really shift the direction of what they're doing or how they're doing it, or the quality of the education they're delivering, without any significant accountability around that. So I want to make sure that we are addressing that issue. And I'm not saying anything about what you're trying to do, your plans. I'm sure you guys are doing everything you can to maintain the you know, the same sort of education delivery and so forth that you had. But I want to make sure that we are doing our job to make sure that schools are delivering high education and having high standards for our charter holders.
May I add something to that?
Yes.
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 All right. Well,
Or
we've
I
been-
don't know, President Lee.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I said yes and kind of coughed at the same time. I apologize. Yes.
I just want to say that we've been working very closely with Ashley actually over the last few months, and we're kind of working through all of that. And I also wanted to, because we do want to make this transition, you know, like I said, I started this school 22 years ago as an AMI Montessori accredited school. And that's the reason why I ended up talking to Sherry. Actually, we've talked for the last few years to do something like this. Because she has the same standards for the school, probably even higher standards actually than even my school has. So I know that my school will continue on as an AMI accredited Montessori school with more enrollment than I've had in the last few years, because I have been kind of on the low enrollment. So I didn't have to work as hard as I could have, just because I'm getting close to the retirement. So I wanted to just make sure that you understand that we are working very close together to make sure that this is an easy transition and an acceptable one for you, as well as for all the parents and the students at the school.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
President, Member Swanson, and to Nelica's point, she's absolutely correct. We have been working with them. We understand what their transition plan is, but they are one of many that are looking to make changes. So I think, as Member Swanson had indicated, that maybe not just speaking just directly to this request, but I think just having a clear transfer process for all schools, no matter what that transition will look like, is important to get that additional information. Exactly what Nelica had indicated as wanting to continue the Montessori model and all the good work that she has. I think having that in a request that goes to the board for consideration is very important, no matter how the schools look to transfer.
Right. Thank you, Mrs. Berg. That's exactly what I was going to say. Is I just think that we have to have a consistent process, right? Like that all schools can kind of be vetted, might be the wrong word, but where that information is brought to the board in every sort of kind of transfer. So, Member Swanson, I don't know if this would sound good to you, but I'm thinking that if we could approve this maybe conditionally, so we approve this and assuming that the board staff can work on that transfer process, we get that presented to us even by the next meeting, and then Jem would agree to completing the transfer process once it comes. So we kind of conditionally approve this, assuming that they're agreeable to going through whatever the transfer process is that's presented. That would kind of maybe meet us in the middle.
President Lee, that would work for me. And again, not picking on Jem at all, just to make sure that we are, do we want to put any additional triggers, or do we just go till the next meeting? Like, do we, what if we're not making progress? I guess would be my question. And again, not picking on Jem, just talking about this process overall.
The board, like if the board doesn't get the process like kind of together and approved.
No, I'm talking about if the school isn't doing what it needs to do to make sure that the
Right.
transfer is, that the board's satisfied with the transfer, I guess.
Right. And I guess, Ashley, tell me if I'm wrong, but we could word it in such a way that if they did not do the transfer, so essentially we could come up with some sort of transfer process where that would come before the board. And then at that point, we would kind of reconsider GEM kind of for this provisionary approval and make it a solidified approval. Or at that time, say, no, it's not going to work. Is that
Yes,
correct?
We can do that.
President Lee,
Yes.
this is Carol Crockett. I have a question for the charter school. Why would it harm you to wait until October until these guidelines are in place and then to come back to the board for approval so that we're not complicating by putting in triggers and conditions?
Nellika, do you want me to answer?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So I just want clarification. My understanding, we were just doing board appointments and charter representative today, not ownership or board. Is that correct?
That is correct. You're changing over 3 members of your corporate board and then also the charter representative.
Okay.
Can I interrupt there for a minute? Because we're not just changing, at this point, we're both, I put it in as both of us being charter representatives. And that's the way we were gonna run it for a while to make sure that everything gets done properly.
President Lee and Nellika, that is correct. That both Sherry and Nellika would be the charter reps.
Okay.
President Lee, this is Matt Mason. Could I jump in here for a minute?
Please.
So I'm a little concerned with post hoc, going in and establishing a transfer process and subjecting these folks to that process when we've pretty much already agreed to similar transfers in the past, at least I believe this year, if not, it was in 19. I think that my concern mostly stems from the potential for feedback from the charter community and comments that may be difficult to implement in a month. I think that we do need a process, and we've discussed this as a board together in the past, and I totally agree that there needs to be a transfer process. But I'm just concerned that I don't quite understand why we would hold up this proceeding while trying to establish a transfer process. I think that we should establish the transfer process, and it should on its own stand alone as a good process. It will be implemented at a certain time, and prior to that, I think it doesn't seem like the best idea to me to say, well, hold your horses. We can't do anything until we establish this new process, when that's not what we've done in the past. And I'm a little bit concerned about that.
Thank you, Mr. Mason.
In other words, what my proposal would be is to go ahead and move forward with establishing this new process, this new transfer process. But it seems as though this applicant has all their ducks in a row and they're communicating with the board well. And I didn't see, when I reviewed the new board members, I didn't see any apparent conflicts of interest. So I don't know why we would force them to comply with a standard that we intend to implement sometime in the future.
Sure. No, I tend to agree with you. And I also think, I guess I did not understand that both representatives were going to stay as the charter representative. So is that what I'm hearing now? So and I apologize, it's Sandra and Sherry that will both be the charter representatives of Jen. Is that correct?
No, it would be Nelica, who's the current representative, and then Sherry is being added as a second representative.
Got it. Okay, and that makes me feel more comfortable, because otherwise I think that there's a vetting process that happens, a little bit stronger of a vetting process that happens with the charter representative that we kind of miss with this. And so I feel more comfortable, just to Matt Mason's point, of approving this, but then still, you know, quickly kind of trying to, as quickly as we can, kind of turn around, if we can, by the next October meeting, to get this process set in place, because I just know that we have some coming down the line. Mr. Mason, does, or I'm sorry, Member Swanson, does that sound?
As long as, you know, what I get what's going, I mean, I understand everything that Mr. Mason has said and don't necessarily agree. But this is an issue out there, and I don't, if our approval of this sets any kind of precedent for somebody else to come back and say, oh, we don't need to do this new process, I would have an issue with that. Again, not saying anything about the motivation of GEM and what they're doing, but this whole transition. And so what happens 5 years down the road, I guess we'll have history of everything that's going on. I just want to make sure that what we do today doesn't set precedent and that we're able to manage this process better in the future.
Right. And I believe some of the concern is, I mean, it definitely sounds like there's been a lot of talks. It sounds like the process is going to be slow. It sounds like there's, you know, with Sherry that there's, or with Ms. Sampson, that there's some, you know, educational background there. It sounds like a lot of educational background, because I think that was one of my concerns, was we just didn't have data, right, with it being a private school, to show that, I don't know what just happened. Sorry. The data to show that this is a vetted person to become the new charter holder and essentially take over this charter. So this is kind of bypasses essentially like the new charter process. That being said, I personally am comfortable. Well, I guess I don't know. Ashley, what is precedent? I mean, what have we done in the past? Can you speak to that at all?
So in the past, and I think this is an ever-changing and ongoing process, as you know, board staff is really learning more about how, as some of our operators are retiring or wanting to leave, how they are transferring. I mean, there's many different ways that schools are looking to make these transfers. So in the past, what we have done, and that's why we've had the 50% turnover of the corporate boards going in front of the board for consideration. In the past, we have had, I can think of 2 situations, I believe, and I think it was back a few years ago, in which the board did approve a changeover transfer similar to this, but we did have information on that new leadership that was taking over, because they had run schools in the past. So this is the one difference in this situation, is that because Sherry is not coming directly from a charter, we don't have that academic information to present to the board. With that being said, though, I think there is room for the board to go both ways on this one, based on precedent, whether to approve it or to table it, or whichever the board decides.
President Lee, this is Matt Mason. If I could ask a question.
Yeah.
Ashley, would this, by approving this here today, would this create some kind of precedent whereby we would be prohibited from creating a new process on a go-forward basis?
President Lee, Member Mason, that no, it would not. From my understanding, if we develop a new process and go through the appropriate public comment process that we are required to by law, that new process, any new transfers could go under that new process.
So I have a question. This is Sherry Sampson. And so am I clear to understand that until today, these would have been, because of the paperwork that we went through and the communications that we went through in terms of instructions, we were following all of the current expectations. So we had no reason to think this wasn't a concern. But let's say, and I'm sorry that I haven't followed all of the agendas for the last year or so. Was this ever brought up before? And is there anything that we might have done differently or should do to, to move forward?
Right. I think
To
what,
address that too. I'm sorry.
no, that's great. So I think what we're seeing, so this has come up before, and which is why we created the process now where if there's a 50% turnover that schools are coming before the board. So that's been, and I don't remember exactly when we implemented that, but I know within maybe the last year and a half or so, we've implemented that process where anytime we see what's kind of considered, for lack of a better word, like a takeover of a charter school where they come before the board and we do have these questions with who the new charter representative will be, and really kind of vet that process out. And I think that originally we kind of thought that would be enough, but we're seeing that as really these retirements are happening, that we need to have a more stringent process for that, and just to have it be more clear as well. So I can't say whether or not a year ago, if this would have approved without question, I can say you regardless, in the last year and a half, you would have still been before the board, just like any other school with a 50% turnover. So I don't know if that helps answer your question. And then it would have also kind of come under the same questioning. That's been pretty consistent that we pulled them off the consent agenda, to have those questions whenever we hear retirement and that things are changing from that level, or the intent of changing ownership. I know that's not happening right now, but with the intent of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
President Lee, it's Carol Crockett again. After listening to the to everyone's questions and concerns and the answers that we've received, I would be very comfortable in approving this application, but restricting any new applications of this type from being considered until a process is in place.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Crockett. And I would have to agree with you. I feel like they've, come prepared. It does not seem like they are coming in to change the mission. It does seem, there's Montessori experience, which I think is extremely important in this case. So there's just not that public education experience. And so I would tend to agree with you that I feel comfortable approving this one, but still doing that process of trying to get the process before us in October, because I also don't want to delay any other schools from this transition. So if we could still get that done as quickly as possible, I know I'd feel comfortable with that as well. And it's my understanding that that's a comfortable, too strong of a word, Ashley, I'm sure, but comfortable timeline for the board to get back to us, for you guys to get back to us.
President Lee, we understand the need to get this done immediately. So we are going to do everything we can to get it on the October agenda with the appropriate public comment period beforehand.
Okay. So board members, I feel like, and you guys can stop me, I feel like we've had good discussions. And with that, I think maybe we could go ahead and do a motion.
President Lee, this is Hans. Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's been excellent discussion. I want to thank all the other board members for asking the questions they did. Most of them were questions that I had, so they're answered, and I'm comfortable as well. So I'm willing to make a motion.
Okay.
I move based on the information contained in the board materials and presented today to approve the request to amend the charter contract of GEM Charter School Incorporated.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
I think that was Dr. Crockett, but I couldn't tell.
Somebody else also.
Okay. All right. Alexis, please, with the roll call.
Vice President Close,
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman,
Aye.
Dr. Crockett,
Aye.
Mr. Mason,
Aye.
Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Swanson,
I'm going to vote aye, and just, I want to say thanks for the discussion and getting to a place where I think we need to be. Again, wasn't picking on Jem, but I think this is something we need to deal with. Thank you.
Ms. Yanov,
I also I also say aye, but I'd also like to just echo the comments that I think this is also an opportunity where potentially the board and working with the Charter School Association could be a partnership. The Charter School Association might be a better opportunity to offer some of this thought and technical support, therefore not putting the board in the position of trying to be both the authorizer and the support. So I don't know if anyone from the Charter School Association is on the call, but I could see an opportunity here. But with that, I do vote aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you, Alexis. Okay, and then,
President Lee, this is Matt Mason.
yes,
Could I jump in real quick?
Please.
I want to be sure that we don't need any motion to move forward with the comment process for establishing a new approval system for transfers.
yep, you just beat me to that comment. So that's what I was just gonna ask. Ashley, is there anything that we need to do to shore up you guys kind of coming back to us in October?
Yes, it would be very helpful. Let me pull up exact language under our board approved procedure for rule and policy adoption. It does allow for the board to enter into an emergency public comment, which would allow the board to put out this request or the change for public comment for less than 20 days. And one of the reasons that we can do that is to avoid serious prejudice to the public interest or the interest of the parties concerned. And so I believe that this situation that we are in right now would lend itself to fall under that category. With that being said, it would be very helpful if the board were able to take motion to consider and approve the emergency public comment period.
Great.
In which we could, again, bring it back to the board in October.
Perfect.
And then additionally, I believe, and again, up for board discussion, but Dr. Crockett did mention a requirement that schools be, if there are going to be transferred, to go through this process that's ultimately going to be approved. So if we can include something along those lines, again, if that is the will of the board, to restrict any schools that are wishing to transfer, that they would need to go through this process.
Great.
As well.
Okay, Hans, are you ready? Are you ready for a motion?
Yeah, I'm not sure I move to approve an emergency comment period for the proposed transfer policy. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's my motion.
And does he also need to include stopping the restrictions until the transfer process is approved?
Yes, if that is the will of
If you
the
can
board
include
or
that as well, Hans.
Yes.
So we'll include, so with additional, what is it now? To just restrict new transfers until the process is approved?
Until they've gone through the, process that will be approved. Yep.
Until the new process is approved. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
All right. I think that counts as a one-time read. So is there a second?
I hope it's a one-time read.
Yeah, I think, is there a second?
This is Justin. I'll second.
Thank you, Justin. Alexis, if you'll do the roll call, please.
Vice President Close,
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman,
Aye.
Dr. Crockett,
aye.
Mr. Mason,
Aye.
Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Swanson,
Aye.
Ms. Yanov,
Aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
motion passes unanimously.
Ashley, Board President Lee, members of the board.
Yes.
The motion to consider the emergency public comment for the transfer process is not on the agenda for today. The board can only approve or make a motion on items that have been placed on the agenda for public notice.
Okay, so you're saying that we can't do what we just did and we have to wait until October to do
Well,
that. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
The portion about moving ahead and approving the motion to approve for the emergency rulemaking process. Yes, that one we do not have on the agenda, so we did not notify the public of that discussion. So that portion, any other motion regarding GEM or is fine.
Sure.
Can get, but you, it is fine to give the board staff direction to work on developing that process.
Sure. I have a quick question. Ashley, do we have anybody, and obviously we don't know, I mean, they could submit, I guess now, do you know of anybody that's coming up on the October agenda that's wanting to do this? That's gonna.
I am aware of one school that I don't know if they'll be ready to go in October, but there may need to be discussion.
Right. I mean, it's my understanding we have two routes right now, is that we wait until October to do this, which then pushes that process out even longer for that school, you know, if they're ready to go in October. The other option I could see is that we do a one item agenda, you know, notice it as fast as we can, right? And then we could have it on that agenda, and we could, you know, essentially do what we're doing now with just the one item on the agenda in the next, you know, 48, whatever the closest is that we can notice it. To give the most time for public comment. Is there?
So I believe, Vicky, would this be okay if today the board took a motion to approve the requirement that the schools go through that transfer process prior to going to the board for consideration, and then separately direct the board to work on that transfer amendment request and bring that back to the board as soon as possible? I believe the public comment policy that was approved by the board allows the executive director to make the decision about the emergency public comment period, and then the board would have to approve that that the emergency was appropriate at the board meeting in October. Could we do it that way?
You are correct on the director can go ahead and proceed with the public comment under the emergency rule, with the board approving that that determination was appropriate. I would caution the board on making a motion restricting charters to going forward with prior to the transfer process, as that was not placed on the agenda for public notice.
Okay. Okay, I don't know if I'm the only one, but I guess I'm confused about what our options are then right now on how we move forward with getting this done as quickly as possible. Do we need to?
This is Rachel. Ashley, we do not have any currently pending amendment requests that would put us into this scenario for October. So I think we would be clean to agendize that component for the October agenda for anyone moving forward without any hiccups, because there aren't any currently slated to be on the October agenda based on submission timeframes.
Okay. All right. Then, and that gives us more time anyway, so then we could approve it in the November meeting where it might come up then, but at least people would know with the October meeting kind of our intention and what they'd have to go through. So that at least satisfies, it makes sense to me that works. So Rachel, knowing that information, so I appreciate that. Do we need to change the motion that we just made? I'm assuming the answer is yes.
Yes, you do.
Okay. And then do we actually not need a motion then, because we are just going to agendize this item and just give direction to the board to come up with this process and have it ready by the October meeting?
Correct.
Okay. I don't know what we do to undo a motion. Do we have to officially undo the motion, or can I just say the motion is undone?
You can just You can just make a statement, the motion is no longer in effect.
Okay. Well, Hans, great job to you, but the great job wording it, but the motion is no longer in effect. Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I would like to hold off, just let me take that back for a moment to be on the cautious side, since we did take vote on that motion.
Okay.
I just remembered that. Can we do a motion and approval to remove that?
Yes.
Thank
I'll
you.
move to remove that last motion.
I'll second that. And if Alexis, you could do the roll call.
Vice President Close,
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman.
Aye.
Dr. Crockett,
Aye.
Mr. Mason,
Aye.
Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Swanson,
Aye.
Ms. Yana,
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Thank you, guys. All right. Moving on to item H1. And I believe Rachel, yes, you will do the presentation for Arizona Autism Charter Schools.
You got it. Arizona Autism Charter Schools, Inc. has submitted an amendment to add an Arizona online instruction program to its charter. If approved, the program will serve grades K through 12. This request was reviewed for substantive completeness by Rio Salado. This includes evaluating the submission against a rubric and demonstrating proficiency with the AOI program through a virtual demonstration. Arizona Autism Charter Schools, Inc. met the scoring expectations of the rubric and Rio Salado's team.
Great. Thank you so much. And is there a representative from Arizona Autism Charter Schools?
Hi there, this is Diana Diaz-Harrison, and I am on the call.
Hi, thank you, Ms. Diaz-Harrison. Is there anything you'd like to say to the board?
Yes, President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, and members of the board, thank you so much for the opportunity and having us on. We are excited to be considered for an AOI to add to the continuum of services for our charter, still being Arizona's first and only autism-focused charter school, and with the pressing need to have distance learning and online learning at the present time. We feel that an online programming source that specializes in students on the autism spectrum and other related special needs is meeting a demand in the community, and we are happy to provide that.
Great, thank you. Board members, are there any questions?
This is Kathy Hoffman.
Yes, Superintendent Hoffman.
Good morning, Diana. Can you share with us how you plan to deliver special ed services through the AOI model?
Yes, so one good thing that's come out of school closure is that we've been able to take these practices on a test drive, so to speak, since March. So we did shift quickly to distance learning when we had to, and our most expert staff members who kind of led the way were our speech therapists who were skilled at teletherapy. So it was wonderful to lean on them to work with our teachers to do telelessons and offer still the specialized supports in applied behavior analysis, student therapies, and speech and occupational, and maintain our amazing student to staff ratios that we have at the school. So continuing with our structured model of small groups of 3 to 6 students in a synchronous lesson, and regular weekly one-on-one lessons with teachers and staff, plus teletherapies, is very aligned to our in-person model and what we plan to continue to offer. And actually we're currently offering, because our school just recently transitioned from full virtual to hybrid. So it's been great to be able to practice and see what works well with our students. Fortunately, we are we have a philosophy to never underestimate our students, and even our most impacted students have been doing an amazing job with telelessons and teletherapies, being responsive to their teachers that they now see on screen, and working closely with families to have facilitators if necessary, so that the students do engage in a meaningful way with their teletherapies and telelessons. Of course, everything driven by the IEP, whether it's online or in person, would be part of the model.
And are you offering an in-person option for these services to your students who are going to be part of the AOI?
Yes, yes, we have an in-person option that will always be kind of our core model. But in surveying our students and families, when we had to offer distance learning, we did learn that about 30% of our families wanted a virtual option that could potentially remain throughout. But most of our families, of course, do prefer in person, and that is what we've been doing all along. So this online option would just be adding to the continuum of services that we offer to our kids and families.
Board member? Yes.
I just want to make sure I'm really clear. So if a student is enrolled in the AOI, they can still go on campus to get services like OT and PT that I think oftentimes need more in person.
Yes, absolutely. That's the beauty of it, that we can do a combination of things. As a matter of fact, we're getting lots of practice in that right now by going with the hybrid model. Absolutely, yes. Telelessons and the online instruction could happen, but we have a growing brick and mortar school that has on-site full service teams of speech, occupational, behavioral therapies that we would be happy to offer to our online students.
This is Justin Rice. I just have a quick question. Can you talk to me a little bit about how service times that would typically be written into an IEP are being met through the telehealth portal or from online learning? Is it a one-to-one match for the hours written into the IEP, or does that look different with the online learning?
I'm going to toss it to our head of schools, Joy McCain, who has been working on that timing and documenting the timing very, very closely. Joy is head of schools at Arizona Autism. Joy, go ahead.
Good morning, President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, and members of the board. Member Rice, the best way that we're doing that is 1-to-1, and I would say the most 1-to-3 ratios. Those are our ratios anyways for on-site. So we've taken what we do on-site and just made it virtual. So students who are less impacted can do more of a online classroom where everybody's in the Zoom, and there's never any more. Our largest classroom is 13. So there's never more than 13 students who are less impacted by their disability. Our students who are more impacted have one-on-one. We also split up the day to where there's whole groups so we can get some social, emotional, and see your friends. Try to get them to interact and say hi to their friends. And every day also consists of at least 2 to 3 small groups. And the small group is either one-on-one or 1-to-3, even in our kids that are less impacted. It's exactly the same. They're still going to get that 1-to-1 or 1-to-3 ratio depending on what they can handle. It's written into the IEP as minutes needed based on what the IEP team states. So it's not, we're actually providing more than what the IEP would actually say. Any IEP that says that we just design our days like that, and then we have everything available and kids get it all. If they need more than that, we do have one particular student who needs a whole lot more than that. So we do talk to the family about, we need you to see you on site more often. We need some social emotional things going on. This just opens up a whole new world for us because we do have ABA managers who are working on their BCBA hours or their supervision hours, and they spend a lot of time with the social emotional and working with our speech and language therapists who do such a great job with teletherapy and really doing that ABA therapy, working with the families and their HAB workers and their providers and making this a true team effort.
Thank you very much for that answer. I appreciate that. And Joy, it's nice to meet you.
You as well.
Obviously, I've had a lot of chances to hear from Diana, so it's nice to see another face. So I appreciate that very much. Thank you. The other question is with regard to least restrictive environment. How are you managing that or approaching that, considering the online learning?
I can take that, Member Rice. Thank you so much. That's been a really big question, you know, kind of for everybody. It's something I've even been asking my my colleagues in other districts, like, hey, how are you doing this? And the biggest thing for that is that whole group meeting at the beginning of the day, really seeing everybody, really seeing, you know, all of your more impacted students to your less impacted students to your, you know, typically developing peers, to really have everybody on that to say hi. It's so cute. We'll walk into a room right now when they're learning and you'll have kids go, oh, Miss Joy just walked in. Miss Joy just walked in. The kids want to all talk, and really having that time. It's hugely important to us to make sure where they're like, oh, why are we doing a whole group of all the kids? Because we need them to see everybody. We want them to get into those really whole conversations. They're very natural. And so that's really important to us.
Yeah, and I'll jump in there as well. I think least restrictive environment is a question not just for our population, but for all kids right now. I have a typical student who is feeling very restricted right now by not being able to, you know, attend and see her friends as she normally would. But in our world, you know, I would say that less is more. Our kids tend to not do well in a classroom with, you know, 25 to 30 kids and one teacher. We get more out of them and they are able to practice and demonstrate their skills more when it's a smaller group, you know, 3 to 6 to no more than 10, and we can give them the attention to elicit responses and get back and forth interaction with them. So even though the group is smaller and some may think that is restrictive, it is less restrictive because we're able to work with them in a more deliberate way and they don't fall through the cracks because the group is so large. So that is something that is at the core of what we do in person and what we have transitioned to the online programming.
Great, thank you very much. I just have one more question. In terms of METs, if you have a child that requires updated evaluations, how will you be handling that with some of the testing and things like that? I know it gets a little sticky, so just checking.
Joy, I'll let you take that one.
Very sticky. Thank you for asking. We're doing those by appointment. So we're doing appointment-based testing. We even have our evaluators, if it's safe, to go to the home. We even have we're doing some in-home testing, some in-home FBAs. But most of our testing, our psych, our speech, we are truly lucky. We did some great recruiting, so they're all on staff. Our entire special ed team, the whole MET team is on staff. And so we are doing it by appointment.
That is great. Thank you so much. No more questions from me.
Great, thank you, Ms. Rice. And board members, are there any other questions or comments?
Yes, President, I have one more question.
Yes, please.
Could you speak more to why you want the AOI when, you know, under the current executive orders and policies, you have the flexibility to do online and virtual. So can you talk a little bit more about why go through the AOI process? And because I am worried, thinking long-term post-COVID about the effectiveness and the, just the overall educational experience, especially for kids with autism, and thinking beyond COVID. So can you just talk a little bit more about why do the AOI application and what that looks like long-term?
Mm-hmm. This was a thought for us even before COVID. So, so it is to expand the continuum of services. We really believe that parents have different reasons for choosing an online option for their kids. And they do it in a way that takes into consideration everything that their child needs. Of course, an on-site option will always be available to anyone, and transitioning from online to in-person will always be an option for anyone. But we do serve, I would say, 2 student subgroups that have a very pressing need for online options. And these are students who are medically fragile. And this is, prior to COVID, and it will remain after COVID, where sometimes they want the school experience, class sizes, specially trained staff to work with their children, but they are dealing with being medically fragile. So coming to the site is not possible for them, perhaps for many, many months. And so we want to be able to offer the ASACS program to those students as well, knowing that they can come on site whenever they're ready, but still have robust daily online programming available to them and work closely with their home team to make that educational programming happen. The other group of students that has communicated with us about wanting access to our program are students in rural parts of Arizona or where they live too far to come to the school. Sometimes these families do have plans to move closer to Phoenix so that they can access the school, but there might be many things to arrange or many months to wait. And so by having an online option, we can kind of bring them into the fold, even though they're too far to travel. And start with their behavioral supports, their assessments, with their everything that we offer, including being part of a class of groups of kids that are on site and virtual, until they're ready to attend in person. So those are some of the reasons why we had a desire to offer an online option even prior to COVID. And even though it's been amazing to have the option to offer distance learning this school year, like I said, 30% of our families wanted to or did opt for this option now, and many are doing very, very well with it. So we wouldn't want to not offer that moving into the following school year for students and families who have enjoyed and seen success with being in our virtual programming this year.
And if I could just add to that a little bit, we also have, I was at a online school for several years prior to coming to here, and also being in districts as a SPED director prior to that. And so the largest thing that we found, and we see it now, is we have a student in Yuma that we see this the most with, and we talk about him on a regular basis. He appears to be neurotypical, but the effects of having high functioning autism, he really just got bullied out of school. And couldn't really handle. Well, we have now, that I haven't really seen at a lot of AOIs, we have the social emotional factor by having our ABA managers and our BCBAs on site. So students who can access online aren't getting the social emotional pieces that I think that we can offer. We can offer that ABA and those social emotional factors that are right here on site, that are part of us every single day, to really help these students be successful. And so when we talk about the students who have that social emotional factor, who just can't handle the school of 2,500 kids, and they just haven't made it anywhere else, and they just kind of give up, we can hopefully bring them back in, and even not to bring them to ASACS, but hopefully even in their community, get them to a point where maybe they can possibly go back to their home school eventually, and get those tools in their little tool belt to handle the social emotional piece of the learning.
Yes, and I'd like to add that we also, Superintendent Hoffman, worry about the quality and making our instruction meaningful in such a way where students are meeting their academic and IEP goals and feeling fulfilled as a student. So we're excited to partner with ASU and A for Arizona. We recently got an innovation grant where we will be doing research to ensure that the strategies and practices that we're implementing are leading to results. Results that are equal to a student being on site, where our online students are getting daily data from their instructors and their therapists, and that data would match what we would be seeing from the student on site. So we don't claim, this is definitely new territory for us, especially wanting to do it well with special education students, but we want to be part of the solution in terms of working on strategies, taking data, seeing results, seeing parent satisfaction, student satisfaction, and engagement as well in the online programming. And we're happy to engage in that research and share the results with the greater community with support from A for Arizona.
Thank you. President Lee, can I just make a comment?
Please.
I appreciate your answers, and it sounds very comprehensive, sounds very robust, it sounds very well intentioned. I'm just worried that none of those plans were in the application, and so I feel like if this were to be approved, to have the Arizona Autism Charter Schools as an online model, then it's I feel like that's a new school system we're creating, and I feel like I'm just worried about I'm worried about what that I'd like to see the plans more in writing, and to see when we're talking about kids in rural parts of the state being able to access this program, then I have questions about, okay, well then how are they accessing the on-site services as needed? I also work with the Arizona School for Deaf and Blind, and they have a lot of similar challenges in terms of access, and kids across the state who want to access their program. So I do think this is a good conversation to be had. I think you said right now 30% of families want an online option. I do think that speaks to the current times with COVID. I'm not saying there's not going to be a reason for online education in the future. There definitely is. That's definitely something we should explore, but I have concerns about using the same AOI model standards for your type of school, which is so specialized, which these kids are very vulnerable, that they do need wraparound supports. And I just have concerns about how we can effectively provide those online. And so I appreciate that there's going to be research done with ASU and to make sure that to check to see if it's effective. But I just would, from the charter board perspective, for me personally as a board member, I would want to see a lot more of that in writing, because to me it's like creating a whole new model for kids with disabilities that I would just want to see in writing exactly all the plans and to address all of the concerns that are being brought up today in this discussion.
Thank you, Superintendent Hoffman. And I think I cautiously echo what Superintendent Hoffman is saying, because my only, I guess, maybe pushback on that is that we didn't ask them for any of that information up front, or would be requiring something. It kind of puts us in a situation, I feel like we were a little bit earlier, where maybe we're wanting a process for specialized schools, but not telling them ahead of time. And so we would be denying them something that we didn't kind of give them ample notice on being prepared to write it down. So I guess I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but that would be my only concern to deny this, is they've received the approval. I feel like their answers are well thought out. I do have concern about opening up an online school, which then now you have to service students from all around the state. And I agree, how do you bring a student in a rural community, you know, I guess maybe let me ask you that question. What is your plan? So those students that you think in the rural communities that are going to come back, sign up maybe for the AOI, what is your plan for getting them those on-site services? Are families going to be responsible for driving them to your school?
I mean, if the family is willing, and we've had that happen before, that is an option. But we're really good at partnering with agencies who serve our population of students. My background is I'm a former user and staff member at the Southwest Autism Research and Resource Center at SARC. And so, for example, if a student is in Yuma, we would do our best to facilitate and offer resources from agencies and, contract with those agencies. If a student is having behavioral barriers to access the online program, we might send a BCBA from our partner agency there, who I've worked with closely, to support the student and work with the home team so that behavioral barriers are eliminated and the student can access the programming. So, currently we partner with Arizona Autism United. We've done things with SARC. We are very well connected in the autism community, so that if an evaluation or a behavioral support or any other support was needed, even if we personally didn't have a staff member who could go there, we do have partners who can work with us to assist the student to get them where they need to be to access the learning. So that would be the plan. Like I said, in this scenario of, the whole big picture of online learning for high needs special education students, we do not claim to know it all, but we wouldn't offer it and not know that we have to do work to ensure that our practices are being successful. So, so that is a commitment that we have, that if we're going to do it, it's going to be the most effective that it can be, and that we'll have continuous improvement goals around it.
Thank you.
This is Member Rice again. I guess I'm feeling especially chatty today. One thing that I would like to say is that I understand some of the concerns regarding students that would potentially be enrolled in Arizona Autism Charter Schools that live in rural areas. However, I guess where I take exception to that is that if we didn't allow Arizona Autism Charter Schools to provide their services online, then essentially we're denying the access to these programs to students in rural areas, which to me is really unacceptable. And I can say, I feel remiss if I didn't chime in, up until March of 2018, I was the director of Desert Valley's regional cooperative with the Arizona State Schools for the Deaf and Blind. So I'm not unfamiliar with how to provide services in rural areas. And I can certainly say that where Arizona State Schools for the Deaf and Blind may have encountered challenges with technology, they're also a state agency, which means that they are very restricted in terms of what technology they are allowed to use in order to service those students in rural areas. So one thing that I look to Arizona Autism Charter Schools is that they are going to have a much broader opportunity to select the technology that is going to be most beneficial to reaching those students in those rural areas. And I would feel that we're not doing our duty as a board if we were not to support that child in Yuma who may not be able to make it to the on-site campus and say, I'm sorry, if you can't possibly be here in person for some of the wraparound services that you may require, well, I'm sorry, you just can't come here. And I take issue with that. I think that Arizona Autism Charter Schools has really thought out about how they would provide those services in those rural areas through partnership, which is something that the Arizona State Schools for the Deaf and Blind also did. So that's just my 2 cents on this, but I do feel like if we are truly trying to be inclusive and service every student to the very best of their ability, not just to our capability, that this is something that we do need to look at more closely. And I think with ASU's involvement, and some of these other groups that are heavily involved with Arizona autism charters and supporting them and partnering with them, I feel like there's also there's a level of accountability there in terms of getting that research and getting that data. And we do actually have something that we can stand behind because of those partnerships. If it's not working, we can revisit this based on that data and make a data-driven decision. But I think we need to allow that path to be open so that we can see how this works and what we're looking at in terms of student achievement in rural areas and providing access to students who might not otherwise have access to the services that they're providing. So that's just my 2 cents, but thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rice. And just, I guess my other comment is while I guess I would hate to, I want to word this carefully, penalize this school because they have such a high SPED population, right? I mean, at the end of the day, every school that we approve as an AOI is required to service any student that walks through their doors. And those students are some of them are autistic or a wide range, right, of special ed accommodations. And I guess we haven't, at least in the past, asked them all of these questions. And so I would just hate to penalize this school because their SPED population is higher. And I get that it's significantly higher, the denial of an AOI when it's been recommended, approval for one. So I guess that's just where I get a little uncomfortable when we start talking about potentially not approving them, when the reality is that the same students that can go to this school can go to any school that we service or that we approve for an AOI. So I guess that's maybe my 2 cents on this matter as well.
President Lee, board members, I think continue your conversation. This is a great conversation. One thing I do want to mention is that statute that guides AOIs, which is 15808, does include information that an AOI is approved on a probationary status for 3 years. That is supposed to include a goal setting component as part of the application process, which is not something that we have done, but is something we are planning to bring forward to you in October or November. Each AOI that has been approved this year has been included motion language stating that the AOI is approved on a probationary status. If the board motions to approve this AOI today, it would include that language, which, as Member Rice just mentioned, would allow us to then make a data-driven decision based upon the performance of the AOI. So I just want to add that as a piece of information that might be helpful as you consider what motion to be made or what direction to take this.
That's really helpful, Rachel. Thank you very much. Board members, is there any other discussion, or do we want to do a motion? And yes.
This is Kathy. I just want to be careful we're not making an apples to apples comparison between other AOI schools and this school, when other AOI schools will likely have a more representative percentage of students with disabilities. So, the state average is around 12%. Some AOIs probably have less, some probably have more, but that's just a very different situation than this school that's almost nearly 100%. And then I do hear you, Member Rice, on the rural issues, and I feel like I didn't, I didn't fully flesh out. It was just a question about how to serve students, but I wasn't saying that it couldn't be done, and that there's not a way to do it. So I just wanted to clarify that it's just a question. And I looked back at the application, and it's just very the application and what was submitted is just very focused on the curriculum. And since this is such a specialized school, and providing special ed services through an online model is its own beast, I just personally would feel better if I saw the plan for special ed services in the application. And I think it's just the AOI application wasn't built for that, because this is a very unique situation.
Right. Thank you, Superintendent Hoffman. And I guess I agree that it's a specialized school. I guess I would just argue that they're probably going to do, again, I'm trying to be very careful, try maybe a better job, or be prepared to do a better job with these students, because their population is 98% versus, again, I just go back to the typical school, or a school with the typical population, that 12% that we're approving with AOIs that would figure out how to serve that, where, that's kind of this school's mission, is to figure out how to serve that particular population. So that would be I don't know, my only comment, I guess, on that. Ms. Diaz, I kind of saw your hand raised. Did you want to comment?
Yes, I agree with what you just said. Because we prioritize this population, yes, it is our whole mission to do this well with this population. And I just wanted to remind the board and let you know that we, through ASBCS, we do have school-specific academic goals approved. And we use best practice assessments for the population. We're approved to use the PEAK ABA-based assessment for our most impacted students and the iReady assessment for modified to high functioning students. We would still have our online students taking those assessments and would have the same expectations for growth and proficiency for the online students. So it wouldn't be any different in terms of the results that we're working toward and the academic goals that we're trying to achieve as a whole charter. The online students would come into the fold. So we're not looking to have the online students exempt from that in any way. We are trialing strategies to see what gives the results that we are looking for that would be on par with on-site students, but that's part of the work, right? And we do prioritize these students. We live and breathe, and it's our whole reason for being a school, is to do well with this population of students. The other thing I wanted to point out is that we're responding to demand. Originally when we started our charter back in 2014, we didn't set out to be an online school, but because we've had year over year requests for this type of option, even before COVID, we want to be responsive to what our parents are asking for and what our state and our community needs. And again, we want to do it exceptionally well. So in addition to us, wanting to move forward with this, our parents are asking and demanding the service as well. So we're just trying to be responsive.
Great. No, thank you so much for that. And so board members, are there any other questions or discussions, or we could put this, to a vote? Just okay. All right. Hans, is there?
Yeah, President Lee, I wanted to chime in real quickly following Superintendent Hoffman. I'm curious about the long-term efficacy of online instruction for special needs students, but I also understand the needs. Well, I think that the charter holder understands the challenges that are in front of them, and I think they've done a good job so far. So for me, I'm going to follow closely if this is approved. But having said that, I move based on the information contained in the board materials and presented today to approve the request to amend the charter contract of Arizona Autism Charter Schools Incorporated to add a probationary online school under ARS 15-808 to serve grades K through 12.
Thank you, Hans. Is there a second?
This is Member Rice. I second.
Thank you. Ms. Rice, Alexis with the roll call, please.
Vice President Close,
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman,
Based on my prior comments, and I'm just really have concerns of not seeing everything in writing, and I worry about the accountability of AOI schools in this model, especially for kids with disabilities. So I'm just out of caution for me personally. I think that since this year we are able to provide online instruction to families, that this would be a good year to study it and to see what's effective, and then move forward with it. So I'm just out of caution going to vote no.
Dr. Crockett,
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Mason, Mr. Mason, Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Swanson, Mr. Swanson,
I've listened to this very carefully. If I may comment for a moment, obviously this is a highly, highly technical issue. But I do think that Superintendent Hoffman is sort of onto something, that we have a year to study this and that this can be addressed later. Ultimately, I think this comes down to issues that are beyond what we're able to do here. This is a critical area of funding and resources addressed. But I believe that Superintendent Hoffman, her approach is a good one, and I'm going to vote no as well.
Deanna?
I would say that I will echo both Superintendent Hoffman and Member Swanson, and that I think knowing more and ensuring that students are getting the best of the opportunity ahead in the next year is really critical. And I think we have the time to learn and serve students really, really well. And I applaud the effort to make sure we're reaching kids where they are. And I think we can use this time. So I'm going to vote no, with the cheers for continuing the hard work.
President Lee?
I know we're in voting. Can I ask Ashley a quick clarifying question about timelines? Is that allowed in this process, or no, since we're ready to vote?
I believe we should ask it. We're already in vote. Probably. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's tough because I guess just to make a comment kind of with where I'm at, because it's my understanding we're at 3-3. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's tough. I think we're in a tough place because I agree that I think studies need to be done on the efficacy of this. I just have a really hard time voting no, knowing that this school, while has almost 100% of its population with special ed needs, that we just are allowing other schools to do this. And they are also going to have students with special needs joining the AOI. And so I just I'm really struggling with this. I wish that we could kind of postpone this to all of the schools doing AOIs, amidst COVID, to let them do this year and see how it goes and gets data. But I just think that because we have not done that and we haven't, I just have a hard time voting no. So with that, I am going to vote yes, but I think, and maybe after the voting concludes, if there's a way that we can just be really clear that these AOIs that we've approved all year are coming back, and we're going to see the data as tied to the AOI separate from the brick and mortar of all the schools that we're doing this year. So with that, I vote yes. And then maybe we can talk about kind of the process after this, Ashley, with just follow up on all AOIs.
I'm going to ask Mr. Mason if he is back.
I'm sorry. I'm back. I did vote earlier. I thought that you heard me, but my phone did cut out. So yes, I vote yes on this. And my vote, I'll explain it, is based largely on the past performance of this particular charter, as well as the demand by parents. I believe that the parents that have students attending these schools are highly engaged. And I think that they're sending their students to this school for a reason. And so for that, on that basis, I'll defer to the parents and vote yes.
Motion passes through majority vote.
Thank you. And thank you so much. And representatives, thank you for being here and answering all those questions for us. Ashley, just to kind of follow up on my comments during voting what is the process? And Rachel, I know, kind of brought this up, that this is provisionary. So what is the process that these schools are going to come back before the board and that we would see AOI data separate from their brick and mortar data?
Yeah. So President Lee and board members, in the past, we have been requested by board members to work on the AOI request and the AOI process. So Rachel and her team have been working very diligently on updating that AOI amendment request and what that process would look like. So I'm going to hand it over to her to give you an update as to where she's at.
Thank you.
So President Lee, board members, my team and I have, especially since AOIs have become such a hot topic this year, we knew that the AOI amendment request needed some work. And so we have for the past 2 months been very carefully looking at the SBE process, looking at what Rio does, and looking at our current processes to make some language changes and also some expectation changes in the AOI amendment request. Some of those changes will include currently when Rio determines on the rubric that the request is substantively incomplete, there is not a rewrite of the amendment materials. It is simply addressed in the virtual demonstration. We will be hoping to shore up some of those processes to be more consistent with our other processes and raise the rigor of this request. It is our intent to put that out for public comment in the next few weeks, which would then bring it to the November board meeting for your review and hopefully your approval or your revisions and then approval. In all of that documentation, that would be for future AOI amendments. But with that being said, it does include what we've been working on will include a process for AOIs approved in this past year. So those are that have come forward kind of since COVID, to go through a goal setting process to allow us to evaluate them on that probationary status. Since the board motion language for each of those did include that probationary approval, we would be able to do that moving forward. Do you have any other specific questions? I kind of gave a brief overview, but that's where we are.
No, I think that's great. What would be, and maybe this isn't done yet, so you can absolutely say that and that you'll let us know next month, but what would be the specific timeline of schools, that we approved coming back? And just, is there that piece where we'd be able to get, again, I'm just concerned about seeing overall data versus, AOI data versus that brick and mortar data. Are we gonna have the capabilities of separating that out?
We should be able to. It is my understanding that the majority, if not all of the AOIs that were approved this year were actually approved as AOI schools, not programs as part of an existing campus. So they do have separate CTDS and entity ID numbers, which means they would garner their own individual data as that AOI. So we should be able to separate that out. With that, what we would do in that process is help them to set goals around that data. And then it would be up to the board if you want board staff to approve those goals, or if you want us to actually bring those goals forward to the board for approval. We can kind of hash that out as we move forward and bring this to you and what that looks like. So we will be able to look at hard data just from those AOIs for the most part.
Okay, great. And the timeline of evaluating that data would be yearly, I'm assuming?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. Thank you. Looking forward to that, the next meeting. Okay, 1 second. Let me get us back where we're going. Okay, so looks like we are moving on to agenda item H2, Heritage Academy. Rachel. Oh,
Heritage Academy.
I'm so sorry.
You're
Rachel,
fine.
Ashley, that was I did not clarify with the charter if they were going to anticipate operating under the AOI this current school year or next current school year. I don't know if the AOI is still on the line, and if you'd like me to ask that question. I had it highlighted for myself because I keep forgetting to ask that, but
we can.
Diana's here.
Yep.
Hi. No, we were not planning to implement the official AOI this year because we already have our distance learning plan underway. So we were planning to implement the AOI the following school year.
Okay, thank you. And sorry for missing that during the questions. All right, thanks so much. So Rachel, now go ahead, item H2, Heritage Academy.
Heritage Academy Levine Inc. has submitted an amendment request to increase its enrollment cap from 650 to 750 for fiscal year 2021. The charter holder stated that the request is due to an increase in student applications and to serve potential new students resulting from the continued growth in the area's housing market. The charter holder does not meet the staff recommendation criteria because Heritage Academy Levine Inc. received an intervention rating based on its fiscal year 2019 financial audit. And as a reminder to all board members, we are still in that transition phase with the new financial framework. So the 19 audit still falls in that transitional period where they can still apply for expansion even if they're an intervention.
Thank you, Rachel. Is there a representative from Heritage Academy Levine on the line?
Hi, President Lee. This is Jared Taylor from Heritage. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Is there anything that you'd like to comment specifically about the financial piece?
Yes, thank you, President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, members of the board. Appreciate you taking this item in front of you today. I'll just mention that Subsequent to our application, we had our quarterly report submitted and reviewed. And then 4 days ago, we did receive a letter from the charter board confirming that they'd reviewed it. We received a determination of not on probation and that we have completed the intervention process. So I think it's more of a timing. We just got that 4 days ago. The letter's dated September 10th from charter board. So I think that that requirement has been satisfied for the application here, but I'm happy to answer any additional questions. Just wanted to address that one item.
Great, thank you. Board members, are there any questions for Mr. Taylor? Mr. Taylor, I just have 1 or 2 questions. It looks like you guys have made significant gains in your math score. So whatever you guys are doing, that's amazing. Great work. I just have some concerns about ELA when looking at your scores. Concerns is too strong of a word, I think, because obviously you guys are, if I look here, performing, actually above state average. My concern was more for your FACE students. If you look, there's a significant drop from 68% to 50% passing for your 3-year FACE students. So could you just maybe talk a little bit about kind of the plan with that?
Yeah, thank you for that question. That's also something that we are looking and working to have some specific goals on. A couple of things that are noted. Number one, this is an area that does have a lot of turnover in it. And so the ability for them to stay with our program, there's a little bit more churn than we see in some of our other locations. But we have strengthened the teacher development. We've put in some more qualified teacher, another qualified teacher a little higher than we had in the past, did some curriculum analysis and where some of the weaknesses are there. So we do have an area of focus in there and look forward to seeing, that improve. But I share that question. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, because your math is, you went from 1-year FACE 64 to 80% as a 3-year FACE. So that's just incredible, what you guys are doing with math, and we typically don't see it in that category. It's usually the opposite. So, okay, so it sounds like you're just, was it teachers? You're just getting maybe teachers that are highly qualified. Is that how you put it? Sorry. You're just getting different staff in place, or your ELA curriculum's changing? I wasn't 100% sure on what your answer was.
Well, there were 2 factors. One is there's a churn in student population. Number 2, but we did need to get a higher quality set of teachers in those grade level areas. And so we made that focus, and we did have some new hires there. But we also strengthened some of the curriculum areas that were showing some weakness that needed to be strengthened as well. So those are the 3 things that I would point to in that area. I will say that when I was first pointed to the State Board of Education, there was a statewide analysis of teacher retention. And this is the area, both for all public schools, charters, and districts, that have the most significant teacher recruitment challenge in this area. I was kind of surprised to see that when I saw that report. And that's been about probably 6 or 7 years since that came out. And so that's always been a focus, but you can see that in this particular data set that you're pointing out. And so we are very encouraged with the connection of that freeway loop. There's been a number of neighborhoods developing. We are seeing some more excellent teachers that are applying in that area. I don't think it's just for our school. I think it's for the other charter and district schools in the area. So I think we're all going to benefit from some of that growth in that area. So looking forward to that improvement.
Great, thank you. And then can you comment just on your FRL numbers? Excuse me. It looks like, within 5 miles, it's 61%. Within 2 miles, it's 47%. But and I don't know if it's just not reporting or what it is, but it's showing that you have 0% FRL. So can you just talk to me about the discrepancy of your student population and what the surrounding population is in regards to FRL?
I think we're not a Title I school, so I think that's why you see the data zeroed out there. I think that probably just comes right down to that.
Do you report so you do not have to report FRL numbers?
No.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, great. Well, those are all of my questions. Board members, are there any other questions or comments before we go to motion? Okay. Then with that, is there a motion?
President Lee, this is Hans. I move based on the information contained in the board materials and presented today to approve the request to increase the enrollment cap from 650 to 750 for the contract of Heritage Academy Levine Incorporated.
Is there a second?
Second, Carol Crockett.
Thank you, Dr. Crockett. Alexis, please.
Vice President Close,
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman,
Aye.
Dr. Crockett,
Aye.
Mr. Mason,
Aye.
Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Swanson,
Aye.
Ms. Yanoff,
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, item H3, PIMA Prevention Partnership, and I believe Ashley, you're doing the presentation.
Yes, PIMA Prevention Partnership has submitted a school location amendment request to move the PIMA Partnership Performing Arts High School from downtown Tucson to the Marana area beginning in FY 2022. A school location request is typically a request that I can sign off on as the executive director. However, these requests are typically filed because a new facility has been purchased or the school's lease has expired and the school is moving down the street or in a close proximity. In contrast, this request involves changes beyond moving the school's location. Rather, it involves serving a new demographic population of students at the new location. The school is currently classified as an alternative school and serves roughly 17 students in FY 2022, or I'm sorry, in FY 2020. At the new location, the charter holder has indicated that it intends to serve 300 students in year one and eventually grow to around 1,200 students. Additionally, based on the demographics of the area, it is unlikely that the school would attract a student population that would continue to allow the school to be to qualify for alternative status. Historically, the 3 charters held by PIMA Prevention Partnership have served roughly around 200 students. For these reasons, this request appears to be a departure from the intended mission and typical operations of PPP, which is why I am bringing it to the board for your consideration. Bringing this request in front of the board for consideration is consistent with current and past practices. I have not signed off on school location changes that appear to be a departure from current operations or mission and have instead placed them on the board's agenda for consideration. This request does not have a staff recommendation criteria because it is not typically considered by the board. However, it is important to note that the charter is on academic consent agreement due to receiving an F letter grade at each of its schools in FY 2018 when the schools were rated using a traditional model and was not graded under the alt accountability models. With that, Madam President, that's all I have to report.
Great, thank you, Ashley. And is there a representative from PIMA Prevention Partnership available?
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. And if you could state your name for the record, please.
Absolutely. My name is Ian Kidd. I'm the superintendent and one of the charter representatives. But so good morning, President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, and members of the board, and all of our guests. So I'd kind of like to address some of the questions and give a little bit of background on who we are and what we're trying to do. So the PIMA Partnership Schools Governing Board approved a location move for one of our 2 charter schools located in downtown Tucson. So that was the main focus there. As said, COPE, our parent company, owns the land and is committed to its own funds to building a facility for us. And we would like to move the performing arts, which is, as was mentioned, is rated as an alternative charter right now, and from downtown Tucson to Marana. As I said, we will maintain the alternative charter school in its current location, downtown Tucson. And then the idea is to basically move our performing arts, our fine arts school to Marana, basically to provide those opportunities for performing arts, to give students that choice and the opportunity in that community. So that's kind of the rationale of what we're doing. We've had the school for a while, and we haven't really been able to attract as many, get the enrollment where we'd like it. But I want everyone to understand that this is a community-based process, and it's a really cool opportunity because we have COPE as our parent company. And with me, I have Ms. Mary Spicio Boyer is the Chief Business Officer from COPE, and she's going to talk a little bit about the actual structure and the organization behind who we are.
Good morning. I want to thank President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, and the board for this opportunity to present perhaps some of the information that doesn't get captured in an application process. So to start, COPE has a 45-year history in Pima County. It is a nonprofit organization, and it provides behavioral health and primary care services to adults, families, and children. We understand the clear link between education and the major role that it has in the impact on the lives of disadvantaged and emotionally challenged kids. That's who we serve as an organization. We have a mission to develop resources to address these issues and to solve community problems. In that, we have a subsidiary organization called Pima Prevention Partnership, and it offers charter school education. So the advent of COPE's role in the schools was that in 2016, COPE was asked to accept the transfer of a charter that was on the verge of closing. Since that time, we have replaced the administration, the board, and been able to turn the school around. However, the issue is at hand that the partnership has 2 alternative high schools in the same location, and they have a declining enrollment. So the application that we submitted was to move one of the charters to a new location, being Marana, to provide choice and opportunity to an area that doesn't currently have that high school charter option. And in our application does state that we would change the location of the school, we would deliver the same curriculum, simultaneously maintaining the alternative charter in downtown Tucson. So our idea was to serve a large underserved community. So within a 5-mile radius of the current location, there are 11 schools. And within a 5-mile radius of the new location, there's 1, which does speak to the need for services in Marana. COPE, as a parent corporation of the partnership schools, also provides wraparound support to these kids. So we do believe that the issues for alternative kids are not defined only by socioeconomic or ethnic or other factors, but that they are things that can happen to any or all of us at any time. So our mission is to maintain and to create a new start for this charter. I believe that the population that will be attracted to performing arts school is going to be kids that are seeking performing arts. The role of the arts in working with kids can't be underestimated. There's a lot of research that supports that it can really make a difference and a change in those children's lives. So providing a liberal arts education with fine arts and performing arts would continue to be the mission and in the interest of the parent company. It is an area that doesn't have an option like that, and because choice and opportunity are important, we thought that we have a piece of land, we have charter schools, let's put them together, let's create an opportunity for that community. So that's basically the background that I have to contribute to the application and any discussion. And again, I thank you for the opportunity to make those points.
Great. Thank you, guys. Mrs. President Lee, I just have a couple of questions for you. So your current school's mission does include statement, it does include serving an at-risk population. Is that correct?
The overall parent charter does describe the high at-risk students. That was the parent, the charter is, the mission was to be the educational destination of choice for the at-risk kids. So that's the school that we still have. That was the first charter school, was Pima Partnership High School. And then 4 years ago, we did add the Performing Arts High School. So the Performing Arts High School, its mission was to provide a performing arts education, a fine arts education. So that's the school we're actually talking about in that respect. So its mission when it was created was to provide fine arts education. And we've had, the liberal arts, we've had humanities, we've got music, we've got, performance, dance, we've got art program. But unfortunately, the location has, since we've opened it, has continued to decline each year. I said it's right downtown, Tucson, and you've got a lot of downtowns expansion, and we've got a declining area. So it's just the location doesn't match the actual, it doesn't attract the students to the fine arts programs currently. So the opportunity came up to go ahead. We did a study. There was an opportunity to move the school. So that was kind of why we were like, hey, let's take advantage of this opportunity to really create a robust program and serve and give that opportunity to kids where there are currently no high school charter schools.
And if I may, and as a point of information, in terms of capacity and capability, COPE as a parent organization serves thousands of people in our community in Pima County every year. And I don't believe that we would be unable to provide whatever supports the partnership requires in terms of growing from the point of entry into that new location.
Right. And I think my concern is that this just wasn't the right application. So because it's more than just a location change. And so unfortunately we, board staff wasn't able to put you through the correct process and where you can say, well, COPE does this and this and this because it's not a new charter application. My concern is that this is location. And when we see and when we approve location changes, we're approving just that you are still serving the same type of population, that your mission isn't changing. And while I get that your mission is performing arts, it's performing arts under the umbrella of at-risk students. And so I'm just really concerned that this is kind of not intentionally by any means, but just that this is circumventing the process of what a new charter application would do. Just especially with the mission, when you talk about a mission of at-risk students versus a traditional, that's a completely different mission. And again, not that you're not prepared for that. I just don't know because we haven't put you through the process that can recommend to the board whether or not you are prepared for that. In a location, so my concern, I guess, board members, is just that this is not the appropriate application for what's actually happening. And I also, just to add one more question, I thought that when I was reading through kind of the board minutes, that there was talk of you potentially doing a more classical education versus a performing arts piece at this new location. Was that under consideration during board minutes as well?
That was a discussion the board had, was like, hey, if you move the school, are you going to do anything different? And so it was just, again, in the minutes, it was just a discussion item. And the board did meet and did approve that the move would be under the fine arts. And we did submit, our school board sticks to mission. And I said, so that isn't a change in the mission of the fine arts, the performing arts school. So the mission of that school is not changing in any way, shape, or form. And I said, the board, they had authorized us to look at different options and different models. And then, a part of that too is, even if we were to try to change our mission, that is something that would come back before the board for the board's approval either way. So again, that's not, it was something that was in our minutes that it was a discussion item, but we do have the school board did come back and they did affirm that the mission is the fine arts, liberal arts education in that respect.
Sure. Right. I just, board members, I guess I don't know where you're at. I guess I'm just having a hard time because, again, the only data we have when your school was traditional was a D or F rating. And so now granted, I know then you're saying, well, it was an at-risk population. So then we applied for alternative. And so I guess that's maybe my point, is that you have an alternative it just goes back to that piece that I really don't feel like this is just truly a location change. And can you confirm, and I just want to make sure I didn't hear you incorrectly, did you say all 3 of your schools have declining enrollment in that area?
No, I mean, we've had steady enrollment at the alternative high school. It's just basically the alternative school has stayed pretty steady, and we have a middle school too, but the high school has stayed pretty consistent. Now, the problem was when the original, and again, this was prior to Cope coming on board, but they basically had the fine arts school directly across the road from the alternative school. So they were basically competing. So the enrollment had stayed pretty steady and consistent at the alternative school. And, Cope came in, they spent $5 million, they renovated the building from top to bottom. And, in that location, we've got a beautiful school. However, it really didn't lend itself to draw the fine arts, the performing arts students in that location. We've managed to keep it pretty steady. And again, we serve the at-risk population here in Tucson, and we've done that for 17 years. And, the scores obviously went 4 years ago when that came on board, because I think that was our first meeting with Ashley was when I came on board as superintendent, and Mr. Cook had just taken over as CEO. That was, a concern, was the grade for the school. And, in consulting with ADE and all of the other people, we worked on, turning around that school and really working on getting the grades. But the population that was at that school definitely did qualify, to meet the at-risk criteria. But again, the at-risk criteria just meant that we were looking at more than, or the alternative model, it just means we're looking at more than the test scores. So if you look at the scoring we got, I mean, we've got for our graduation rate, our persistency, our credit rating, our credits earned, I mean, we got 10s across the board in those areas. So again, our student population definitely downtown, it was urban. And I mean, credit to the staff and all of the support of everybody else. That's what's really helped us go from, yes, it was a poor grade the first year, but I mean, it's still an A on the alternative model. But again, all of those other pieces of the components have to be factored in there too, in that respect.
Can you tell me what your official submitted mission statement? I apologize if I just don't have it in front of me. So I'm hoping you guys do, or maybe you have it memorized. What's the official mission statement for the school that you're looking to
the school that we're moving, the official mission statement is fine arts.
Well, I mean, like the verbiage. Can you tell me what the actual verbiage is of it?
When you look at our website, again, this was when we came on board, when they initially filed the paperwork for that school. It says blended learning model with a fine arts focus is the actual mission, to provide fine arts education. Is what the actual mission statement for that school does stay on the charter board website.
President Lee, if you'd like, I can read that mission statement for you verbatim.
Thank you, Rachel.
Okay. Pima Partnership High School. The mission of Pima Partnership Charter High School, an advanced ed accredited high school, is to provide a rigorous, differentiated educational program, credit recovery, extended day, and technology enhanced instruction for at-risk youths, students who have a history of behavioral problems, weak attendance, poor academic performance, insufficient academic credits to graduate, dropouts, and those who have societal struggles of family responsibilities and adjudication, are provided a curriculum that meets Arizona's college and career ready standards in the core areas of language arts, mathematics, science, and social studies. This is accomplished within a safe, supportive environment, leading to a high school diploma and preparation for success beyond graduation.
President, this is I'm sorry, presently, this is Ashley Berg. Just to make sure it's very clear, the mission that the charter representative was reading off, I believe, was the mission that they have for their school. The mission that Rachel just read is what we have on contract for PIMA prevention partnership at the charter contract level. So that is the mission that the charter is approved for.
Right. So I guess maybe that's my concern, is that we approved you, right, as a charter for at-risk students. And so essentially we're maybe just finding out right now with this location change that you're essentially operating, you know, out of the scope of your mission, if your mission with this school was not to target at-risk students. And so that's my concern. My concern is that, again, I don't think you intentionally did this, right? I think that this just, but what it is happening is that there's a circumvention of what we've set in place as process for, hey, if you're changing your mission statement, A, that should come before us, or B, if you want to, you know, keep your alternative school and keep that mission, which is a great mission, and we need that, then we need to do a new charter application. And so that's where my concern is, not even today getting in the discussion of whether or not you're qualified for this, because we're not even there yet, because the application for the new charter that we'd be discussing this, where you'd be going through the vetting process, hasn't been done yet. So I guess, you know, board members, I don't know where you're at. I don't know if maybe I'm the only one seeing this is more than just a location change. But that's, I guess, kind of where I'm at with all of this.
President Lee, this is Kathy. President Lee.
Yes, Mrs. Hoffman.
Thank you.
Superintendent Hoffman.
I'm completely on the same page as you. I had the same concerns, and then also in looking at the application, the other part that was kind of a red flag for me was also the enrollment growth projections. And I'm not sure if this was, I guess maybe some clarification would be, is this calculated by the board, or is this part of their application, but projected to go from 17 students in 2020 up to 300 and then up to 521 in the over the next couple of years. And so again, that just to me indicates a completely different type of school and a different, and I would want to see a lot more information, because to me, there's a lot of indications here that this is for a new school in a new area with new student population.
Thank you, Superintendent Hoffman. And yeah, I agree.
Presently, Jim Swanson, I'm in concurrence with you and the superintendent.
Okay. So I hear you guys, what you're saying, and I hope, you know, I think we're ready. I think we're ready for a motion. I just hope that, you know, obviously I don't know how this is going to go, the motion, but I just hope that you guys hear that we're not saying, you know, no, because we don't believe in you. We're saying, you know, we're doing a motion that I think is just, you know, we kind of filed the paperwork with the wrong place. And so, or, you know, the wrong paperwork. And so, you know, we'd love to see you back here, you know, with the new charter application. So with that, is there a motion?
President Lee, this is Hans. I'm willing to make a motion to deny. I'm just struggling a little bit with the specific language for the reason. Would it just be, what I see is primarily the charter, the mission as established in the charter, the formal charter, will not be able to be fulfilled. Is that right? At the new location?
Ashley, can you provide clarification for just on the exact wording?
I think it would be appropriate if Hans does want to make a motion that the school location request does not appear to be consistent with the charter's mission.
Thank you.
Not consistent, okay. Then I'll go ahead and make a motion. I move, based on the information contained in the board materials and presented today, to deny the request to move the school location of PIMA Partnership Performing Arts High School for the reason that the new location is not consistent with the charter?
Mission. Great. Is there a second?
Carol Crockett, second.
Thank you, Dr. Crockett. Alexis, please.
Vice President Close?
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman?
Aye.
Dr. Crockett?
Aye.
Mr. Mason?
Aye.
Ms. Rice?
Aye.
Mr. Swanson?
Aye.
Ms. Yanoff?
Aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Okay, item H4, Presidio School. Rachel, we are back to you.
Presidio School has submitted an amendment to add an Arizona online instruction program to its charter. If approved, the program will serve grades K through 12. This request was reviewed for substantive completeness by Rio Salado. This includes evaluating the submission against a rubric and demonstrating proficiency with the AOI program through a virtual demonstration. Presidio School met the scoring expectations of the rubric and Rio Salado's team.
Thank you, Rachel. Is there a representative with Presidio here?
Yes.
Awesome. If you could please state your name for the record and if you have any comments.
Yes. Good morning, President Lee and members of the State Board for Charter Schools. I am Thomas Drexel, Presidio School Charter Holder Representative, and I'm here with our principal, Jessica Montier-Pulse. We appreciate your time in allowing us to present our AOI application before the board for your action. Presidio School is presenting our amendment with the knowledge that during these different times, we have successfully taken up the challenge to provide an online instruction to our students since March 2020. With feedback we've received from our students and families, our online instruction has been very positive. Presidio School's application expresses our desire and ability to continue the strong, solid delivery of the Presidio online instruction. Presidio School, Principal Poles and I are here to answer any of your questions.
Great, thank you. Board members, are there any questions? I'm just going to ask the question that I always forget first so I don't get in trouble. Can you tell me if you are anticipating to begin operating under the AOI either this current school year or next school year?
It will be next school year.
Next school year. And again, I know you briefly mentioned it, but maybe just a little bit more detail and what's your reasoning for kind of, not just doing the distance learning this year, but really kind of adopting AOI as a school?
I'm going to turn this over to our Thomas Jefferson of this written amendment application to Jessica Montier-Pulse, and she can answer the rationale behind our school choice.
Thank you.
Good morning, President Lee and members of the Charter Board. Thank you so much for reviewing our application. And to answer your question, the reason that we would like to continue providing online instruction is because we have found that we're able to serve a larger population through the online instruction. So students that might not be able to attend Presidio in person at our brick and mortar school will still have the opportunity to participate in our rigorous education, including AP and dual enrollment classes at the high school level, and then our pre-AP kindergarten and our advanced placement classes from 1st grade through 8th grade.
Great, thank you. And just how do you plan on serving your special ed population that chooses the AOI?
So our special ed population is currently being served, and the plan to move forward is to serve our population through individual and small group sessions. We have, those sessions are both, they include students that are participating in person and virtually. And we also have our ESS teachers and paraprofessionals that are jumping into online courses and kind of sidebarring with our students receiving services to make sure that they're staying on track, to make sure they understand the curriculum and make sure that they're writing down what is needed in order to fulfill the assignments. We also have a schedule. So we've gone through all of our students' IEPs. We've taken out the amount of time that they need on the service page. And then we created a schedule so the students have half-hour to hour-long sessions with our ESS staff to meet in small groups or individual or as individuals to address their specific needs.
Great, thank you. And just, I want to commend you guys looking at your FACE scores. I mean, you're going from students, averaging 68% and then with you for 3 years, jumping all the way to almost 90%, and I just think that speaks to your program about what you guys are doing. And not that those scores are the only thing that says whether or not a program is good, but these definitely lend itself to that's no small feat for you guys. So great job in that. Board members, are there any other questions or comments? And if not, is there a motion?
President Lee, this is Hans. I move based on the information contained in the board materials and presented today to approve the request to amend the charter contract with Presidio School to add a probationary online school under ARS 15-808 to serve grades K through 12.
Is there a second?
President Lee, this is Carol Crockett. I second the motion.
Thank you, Dr. Crockett. Alexis, please.
Vice President Close,
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman.
Aye.
Dr. Crockett,
Aye.
Mr. Mason,
Aye.
Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Swanson,
Aye.
Ms. Yana,
Aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
motion passes unanimously.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Can I take up a little more of the board's time, please?
If it's really fast, because we already did our.
It will be a very short statement. We would like to take a bit more of your time, all right, so that we might express to the board, all right, our appreciation to Ashley Bird and the staff of the State Board for Charter Schools, especially Rachel, Hannah, and also our Education Service Program Manager, Mary Caranta, for their knowledge, response time, and professionalism throughout this process. Thank you.
Thank you. You can always take more time for a statement like that. You scared me for a second. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for being here. And yes, I echo everything that you said. Our team is great. So thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Item H5, Southwest Leadership Academy.
Southwest Leadership Academy submitted a request to add an Arizona online instruction program to its charter. If approved, the program will serve grades 9 through 12. This request was reviewed for substantive completeness by Rio Salato, and this includes evaluating the submission against a rubric and demonstrating proficiency with the AOI program through a virtual demonstration. Southwest Leadership Academy met the scoring expectations of the rubric and Rio Salato's team.
Great, thank you. And is there a representative with Southwest Leadership Academy here?
Sorry, gonna turn my camera around. Okay, can you guys hear us okay?
Yes, we can.
All right. My name is Jessica Venzel, and I'm here with Megan Miller as representatives of Southwest Leadership Academy. Good morning, President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, and members of the board. Southwest Leadership Academy is requesting an approval for our online instruction charter addendum. As we learned from school closures, we needed to re-examine how to best serve our students with a continuum of services. Our intention for the AOI is to ensure we have multiple opportunities for our students to gain their education despite unique personal situations, including those who have now had to become head of their households, those who now have to contribute to their family's livelihood, those who have families of their own to care for, and for those students who are transient in nature, including our students who live in group homes or are cared for by Department of Child Safety.
Great, thank you. And before I forget, can you just answer the quick question of, are you guys planning to begin operating under the AOI this current school year or next school year?
We intend to begin as soon as we are able to.
Okay, so this school year. And
school year,
again, talk to me about, specifically why AOI now, and just maybe the reasons leading up to this. Is it just because of COVID? Did you have plans prior to COVID? What's going on?
For us, we are now we have the administrators necessary to be able to ensure that the online instruction is being monitored with fidelity. So part of it is our staffing is now at a place where we can manage the amount of work that it would take to onboard an online school. That was something in the back of our head. And then when coronavirus happened, we realized that many of our students, after we reopened, were still unwilling to come to school because they had unique family situations. So it wasn't that the hybrid learning would meet their needs. It's that now they need something where they can do their learning at night, on the weekends, things that our hybrid approach won't be able to fully to meet their needs. So it was about looking at our students we serve. Many of them are young adults, 18, 19, 20 years old, and making sure that we have all the services and opportunities in place to help them gain their high school diploma, knowing that that's the most important thing that we can do for them to set them in the right path for adulthood.
Great, thank you. And can you talk to me about your plan for special ed services through the online platform?
Absolutely. So for us, the online platform will be on a case-by-case basis for the special ed students specifically. And what that will entail is a full IEP meeting once a student is approved for the online instruction, and having that IEP reflect the online instruction. We have multiple opportunities for students to access teachers, both special education and general education teachers, as they work through their courses. And this includes utilizing the Google Classroom platform for the meets, opening up for Saturday school, and allowing students to attend night school whenever the opportunity presents itself for them to attend in person. We also want to make sure that those services are aligned and that we're meeting those service minutes through small group or one-on-one instruction with a special education teacher.
And so so for your online students, do you plan on offering both online services as well as in-person services?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we offer to every student is monthly Saturday school and night school Monday through Thursday. And so we want to offer that opportunity to any student on the online platform to be able to come in and attend in person, to receive one-on-one tutoring, small group tutoring. We are also able to provide that utilizing technology in the classroom, including box light boards. So if a student is struggling with their work, they can receive tutoring either from a distance or in person. We've put multiple layers of services within this platform. So no matter what the student's needs are, we can meet it as a school.
Great, thank you. Board members, are there any questions? Okay.
Are you ready for a motion, President Lee?
Please.
Okay. I move based on this is Hans. I move based on the information contained in the board materials and presented today to approve the request to amend the charter contract of Southwest Leadership Academy to add a probationary online school under ARS 15-808 to serve grades 9 through 12.
Is there a second?
Second, Carol Crockett.
Thank you, Dr. Crockett. Alexis?
Vice President Close,
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman,
Aye.
Dr. Crockett,
Aye.
Mr. Mason, Mr. Mason, Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Swanson,
Aye.
Ms. Yana, Ms. Yana, President Lee,
Aye.
motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to replications. We have, looks like Madison Highland Prep, and Rachel, to you for the presentation, please.
Madison Highland Prep submitted an application to replicate its charter, which has been in operation since 2014. If approved, the new charter will be held by the same entity as the existing charter. The proposed school will be called Highland Prep West and will serve grades 9 through 12 in Goodyear with a target start date of August 2nd, 2021. If approved, the charter will have an enrollment cap of 550.
Great, thank you, Rachel. Is there a representative here from Southwest Leadership Academy?
Presently, I believe it's Madison Highland Prep.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. I was reading the Zoom. Yes, I'm sorry. Madison Highland Prep. Is there a representative from Madison Highland Prep? Sorry about that.
Morning. Hi, this is Kerry Clark. Good morning, Madam Board President, Superintendent Hoffman, and members of the board.
Good morning. Do you have any statement or anything you'd like to make before we ask you some questions?
Thank you for meeting on this and considering it. And we're looking forward to opening up a school in Goodyear and with your support.
So great, thank you. So board members, are there any questions? Okay, I just have one. Why Goodyear?
We have a lot of partners out there, K-8 partners who've been asking us to come out there. And so we think that there's a pretty substantial need for STEM high school programming. And I've got some familiarity with the area. So we thought we would do a third and final school.
Oh, you should never say final. But now you're going to have a fourth one. But okay, so no,
Yeah.
thank you so much for that. And it looks like, you guys are doing, with the data, you guys are doing a great job. It looks like the location seems pretty similar to kind of the current population that you've been serving. And so with that, is there a motion?
President Lee, this is Hans.
Yes.
I move based on the information contained in the board materials and presented today to approve the request to grant the replication charter to Madison Highland Prep to establish Highland Prep West to serve grades 9 through 12 in Goodyear.
Is there a second?
Second, this is Carol Crockett.
Thank you, Dr. Crockett. Alexis?
Vice President Close,
Aye.
Superintendent Hoffman. Aye. Dr. Crockett,
Aye, and I'd just like to say my very best wishes going forward.
Thank you.
Mr. Mason, Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Swanson,
Aye.
Ms. Yanoff, President Lee,
Aye.
motion passes unanimously.
Great. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Item J. Miss Ashley, is any summary of current events, future meeting dates for us?
Yes, of course. President Lee, Superintendent Hoffman, and board members, just want to give you an update on the next board meeting dates because they are a little bit different than what we usually expect. So our next board meeting will be on October 13th, and that is a Tuesday because of Columbus Day. So I want to make sure it's all noted. It is included on your calendars, but we'll make sure to send an additional update to each of you. Then the November meeting is actually a Friday. It's Friday, November 20th. So I'll make sure to send you guys an update as well on that. And I have some good news. So the National Charter School Law Ranking and Scorecard came out from the Center for Education Reform, and Arizona was ranked #1 in the country. We were the only state to get an A letter grade, and behind us for the other top rankings were Washington, D.C., Michigan, Minnesota, and Florida. So I think this is really incredible. The work that we're doing is really making a difference in the charter community, and this is just such a great ranking and award for us. There will be more information coming out later today with regard to that scorecard, but it is exciting news. I think the one thing that Arizona got lower points on is the equitable funding, and we know that is an issue with all of our schools. So I think that's great news, and just want to make sure that the board is aware of that ranking that we got from a national organization.
Great. Thank you, Ashley.
You're welcome.
All right. And with that, we are adjourned. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.